The Cleveland Kardashians have a new head coach. I've got two monster stats that you need to know before the LSU Clemson National Championship game on Monday. North Carolina head coach Roy Williams puts his foot in his mouth again. You are not going to believe what happened, not only at the game, but what he said after the game. And will Drew Brees be a part of the NFL next year? And if so, what capacity? You're in the first round, the show that helps you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Live here in the first round, St. Jude Studios, along with our producer, Ray Boom Boom Mancini, and my co-host, Chris Roberts. On our new time, Sunday, I know we're starting at 6:30, but we're going to be here at 6 o'clock moving forward. We had an NFL game, we had traffic, we had people sleeping, we had a bunch of stuff going on. Manny the mascot is in the studio today. We are glad that you are joining us here. There's so much going on in the world of sports, but before we start getting to everything that's going on, Chris, you're awake.
Yeah, man.
Are you awake?
Man, I had to be, man. I had to get here, man. I'm doing like 90 miles an hour riding behind a slow BMW who acts like they don't have a performance car, man. They just cruising in the middle of the night. I'm like, what are you doing?
Let's talk about yesterday before we hit the biggest things going on in the world of sports. Yesterday, I thought was so awesome. Getting out up on campus, we've got 250 subscribers. We picked up about 80 yesterday, just meeting with people that wanted to talk to us about the show. Got some new subscribers to the show, and I just thought it was awesome. I'm sure it's this way on every single campus, but just I haven't been back up on campus, that much, frankly, for like 4 or 5 years. Yeah. And seeing these kids come in and their eyes are wide open, they're ready to kill. I mean, they're in this position in life that you and I are long gone past, where everything is bright and in front of them, and you and I are kind of winding it down. Right. And it was just so encouraging to see, people out there that knew about the show, wanted to talk sports with us right there, up on campus. I thought it was awesome. It's a great experience being back up on campus, I think.
Yeah, it was a great experience. I mean, I hadn't been on campus in, Lord knows how long. Being a Gainesville resident or whatnot, it was just great to see these young faces. Just to see, these idealistic kids that were walking up talking to us about the show, and, they were just interested, and just was willing to talk sports. It was definitely something that was gratifying for me just to be back on campus.
I know. The funniest thing is when you ask somebody if they want to be a subscriber and they're like, I'm already a subscriber, and you feel so bad. I'm like, I had to tell this one guy, I'm like, I've literally talked to probably 1,000 people in the past 3 weeks, either around town or up on campus. Right. And so I felt really bad. A couple special people that we want to give shout outs to right now. Vith, UF student, big into New Zealand rugby for all things. We learned about rugby yesterday. He was talking to us about rugby union and his favorite team, the All Blacks, who I actually found out won the Rugby World Cup in 2011 and in 2015.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to start. It goes both ways. Right. I'm going to start kind of getting into rugby. I'm not going to be talking a whole lot of rugby, but the fact that this guy was into it, I was like, it was so cool. We met a bunch of international students, one from Saudi Arabia. That was really cool. Also, shout out to Ansley and Kara from Tri Delta. The cool thing about the sisters at Tri Delta, guess who their sponsor is, or who they go out and raise money for?
St. Jude.
St. Jude, same as us. It was so cool talking to those two girls yesterday, and they mentioned, I said, hey, who do you guys support? Who do you, try to raise money for in awareness and charity? And they said St. Jude, and I was like, that's our charity. We love St. Jude. We love propping them up and raising awareness for them. You can go to rondolbeck.com, top left-hand corner. You can learn about St. Jude or donate to them. Also, we met Eloise yesterday. For some reason, we get the funniest requests for shout-outs. She wanted us to give a shout-out to her cat, Archie, and that's as much time as that's going to get. So thanks yesterday for signing up, Eloise, and your friends. Also, Libby from another sorority house, Alpha Delta Pi.
Right.
They support Ronald McDonald House.
Okay, that's what's up. They're right around the corner, too.
Yeah, and they're actually, I think they're getting a new house.
Okay.
Because I was doing some research on them, and I think they're getting a new house. And it looks pretty pimp.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this isn't Animal House. This is like 5-star where I would stay out in Las Vegas.
Really? Do you know like where the location next to the last time I did like an affair there? You know, it was kind of like a little small spot. So I don't know, is they getting like a bigger spot or?
I don't know. You can go on both those websites for Tri Delta and Alpha Theta Pi.
Okay.
And the one of them, you can't pull pictures off it because I wanted to prop them up and really show some of the charity work that they did. But it's almost impossible to pull stuff off their site. But Alpha Theta Pi, the sorority sisters there, we appreciate you guys signing up. Hopefully you will become weekly viewers here of the show. And last but not least, Ellie from UF Rowing Club. Rowing. So we got rugby, rowing, sororities. I mean, all this stuff in the first round that we never, ever, ever talk about, hardly ever.
Right. I mean, matter of fact, I didn't even know UF had a rowing team.
You know what? When I moved here, I didn't know they had a hockey team.
Really?
No, but they do. They have a hockey team, and I used to play ice hockey out in San Diego.
Oh, wow.
And hockey is a sport, and we're talking about sports. So let's get it started with the biggest things going on in the world of sports right now. We have to start in one place. Baltimore. Yesterday, the NFL, Tennessee somehow goes into Baltimore in the most inexplicable fashion and beats the number 1 seeded Ravens 28-12. Chris and I will be breaking that game down. Derrick Henry only went for 195 yards in that game. That's all. How do you give up 195 yards to a game the week before against the number 1 defense in New England? They gave up 186 yards. Didn't you see this coming? I was sending out tweets last night, and the Raven fans were hating me, and I was like, I don't care. You should be stopping him. Chris and I are going to talk about that game. San Francisco at home against Minnesota gets it done. 27-10. The big story and reason for San Francisco getting that win at home, defense. D Ford, Kawan Alexander, the defensive line there, Minnesota couldn't get anything going offensively at all. They had 6 first downs in the whole game. Just think about that. You're not making it to the Super Bowl. You're not going to play in the Super Bowl when you only have 6 first downs. The big game on the board today, Houston at Kansas City. How about this? Houston jumps up 24-0 on the road. And I'm starting to have flashbacks of the game yesterday with Tennessee. I'm thinking the underdog is going to win this game. No way. Kansas City puts their foot on the gas. 51-31 is the ending score of that game. Unbelievable comeback for Patrick Mahomes. They look like they're ready to kill. This is setting up a huge game next week against Tennessee. And who a couple weeks ago would have said, I can't wait to see this epic matchup between Tennessee and Kansas City to see who's going to represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Just after our show, Seattle goes on the road. It's going to be 40 degrees or 21 degrees, 40% chance of snow at Lambeau Field in Green Bay. Seattle's getting 4 points. I said on our last show, I love Seattle in this game. How about the Browns? They've got a new head coach. Chris and I are going to talk about it. I'm going to tell you who it is. I'll give you a hint. It's not Josh McDaniel from my New England Patriots. I still think they went out and made a good hire. College football. Monday night, national championship game. LSU and Clemson. Clemson's getting 7 points. The over and under is 68. I'm going to break all that down, and I've got 2 of the biggest stats that you probably don't know but should know before you watch that game. James Harden in NBA news last night becomes the 45th NBA player to score 20,000 points. Houston, 26-12, their 5th seed in the West. That means if the playoffs started today, they would be playing the 4th seed, which I believe is who, Chris? I don't even know who it is. They're not playing the Lakers or the Clippers, so that's a good mark. UFC 246, the headlining match is going to be Donald Cowboy Cerrone against my used-to-be favorite MMA fighter, Conor McGregor. Also, Holly Holm and Raquel Pennington. That's going to be an interesting match for all the people that love the females fighting in UFC. I'm going to talk about both of those. And lastly, in men's hoops, Clemson, 0-59 at UNC yesterday, gets the overtime win. I have a Roy Williams story, not only what happened in that game, but what he said after the game that you are not going to believe. And having said that, Chris, That's everything. That's everything relevant, pretty much, that's going on in the world of sports, and I'm almost out of breath.
What about this game tomorrow night, man? You ready for that game tomorrow night?
The national championship game.
Yes, sir.
I am ready for that game, and I can't wait to break it down. I've got my ironclad lock pick. I'm going to get put out my score. I'm going to put out a teaser on it,
Really?
and I'm going to tell you why it's going to be a lot closer than most people think.
Why is that line? Why the line keep jumping though, man?
I mean, it started out at 5.5 and it's up to 7, so it hasn't jumped. There's not a lot of action swing one way or the other with it.
Yeah, I was looking at what was that? I think CBS, and they had the line back at like 5.5 points. I'm like, is it 7? Is it going to be 5? I mean, I need
CBS.
Yes, I'm looking at their
I never go to
line.
CBS for my lines.
It just happened to just be there. I mean, looking at the game.
No.
So I was like, huh? Okay.
They have the best college football coverage, but when it comes to betting information and lines, I go to DocSports.com. I don't even trust CBS. Let's get to the biggest upset possibly of the year in the NFL. How in God's green earth did Tennessee go into Baltimore, dominate that whole game, make Baltimore look like they didn't know what they were doing? They could not get their offense going at all. Tennessee ends up getting the job done, securing a place in the AFC Championship game, 28-12. I was watching that game last night and tweeting out. Baltimore, so disappointing. And before the playoffs started, I made my playoff prediction. I got San Francisco to win the Super Bowl. And you asked me how come I didn't have Baltimore. And a lot of guys that we were talking to yesterday said, how come you don't have Baltimore? Baltimore's number 1. Lamar Jackson is, a lower form of God. No one can tackle him. He has an awesome arm. He's awesome, Yeah, he's awesome athletically. And the word for word, do you remember why I said I didn't take Baltimore? They're not ready. It's their first year coming to the dance. Yeah. That's the reason. And they weren't ready at home when they should have been ready. How do they let Derrick Henry run for 195 yards after he put up over 180 yards on the number 1 defense, New England, last week at Gillette? How do you let that happen?
You ever try to tackle a big person in cold weather?
No.
Derrick Henry is a big dude.
You end up just hugging me.
I'm just saying, this guy's a big dude, man. So imagine he just keeps pounding your defense, and he keeps pounding that defensive line. Eventually, that defensive line gets tired of trying to tackle that guy in the cold weather, man.
I know, but how do you? Let's just talk schematically. Isn't your number 1 job coming in? If I'm John Harbaugh, I'm saying to my defensive coordinator, I'm saying to the team, look, Ryan Tannehill. Just say that name slowly. Ryan Tannehill has to come into our house and beat us because we are not going to let Derrick Henry go for almost 200 yards. What on God's green earth is going? What the actual hell happened? How do you let that happen?
But Ryan Tannehill did his job. He threw a touchdown pass.
And so did Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
Derrick Henry threw a touchdown pass.
Exactly. I mean, Ryan Tannehill said, look, I don't have to I don't have to put up over 100 yards worth of passing. I just need to get one good pass off, and maybe it'll go for a touchdown, and I'm good. And guess what? That's exactly what he did.
Lamar Jackson, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble, lost.
Yeah.
Tennessee recovered. First half stats, 2 for 8 for 17 yards and a QB rating of 0. And what did I say about their running? Mark Ingram wasn't going to be effective. Mark Ingram in the whole game yesterday, 6 rushes, 22 yards. You can't, if you don't have that running game going and he's not 100%, which he wasn't, then you just put 2 linebackers or 1 linebacker spying on Lamar Jackson, and that's exactly what happened. Who ended up having a good game statistically,
right? But
when you throw 2 interceptions and a lost fumble, can't do that when you're in the playoffs. No, can't happen.
You can't do that. And, I mean, Vrabel has had his guys prepared, to go on the road to play these tough games. And, it's just very interesting to see Vrabel have his guys amped up for New England and still be amped up to go in and play the number 1 team in the AFC.
Right.
To pull off an upset.
I actually thought there would be a drop-off in this game from Tennessee. There absolutely wasn't. The notes I wrote down, Baltimore, poor tackling and no urgency. Tennessee played like they should be here. Head coach Mike Vrabel has them ready and thinking and believing that they can win.
Exactly.
And that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah.
Baltimore walked in like they were the prince of the ball, and it was just a coronation game. And Mike Vrabel had his Tennessee squad saying, you know what? Look what we just did in New England. We killed the king, and now we're going to take down the number 1 seed, and that's exactly what happened. This was the most shocking result that I could. This is why I didn't want to give the 10 points.
Right.
I had Baltimore to win the game on a money line because I thought it was going to be close. It wasn't even close. How wrong was I on that?
Yeah.
Along with 90% of the rest of the known world.
Exactly, man. That's scary. That offense with Derrick Henry is just rolling like that, just rolling over defenses.
Yeah.
I mean, top tier defenses at that. So, I mean, the fact that they have a running game rolling like that, that's kind of scary.
I don't want to get too far ahead of the game, but is there any way you could see Ryan Tannehill leading the Tennessee Titans to a Super Bowl victory? I mean, am I out of my mind?
No, you're not.
I mean, I should be out of my mind.
you-
Ryan Tannehill, that's his
Right.
first playoff victory yesterday.
Right.
Or last week. That was his second in his whole career.
Remember the early 2000s Baltimore Ravens, who had nothing but defense, no offense.
Right?
And
And
they
you
won
can
the
talk
Super-
about Tampa Bay when they played the Raiders in San Diego.
Exactly, and they won a Super Bowl.
Right.
With a quarterback who had inept play.
But I don't think of the Tennessee Titans as having a dominant lockdown defense, do you? They just have a solid running game. And if you look at their season, it wasn't like they were just like getting better. It was like ups and downs, and they were kind of bipolar this season.
But they control the game. I mean, you got to think. I mean, Baltimore was used to putting up 30 and 40 and 50 points on teams this year. And the fact that they actually held them to 12 points yesterday and held the most dynamic person in the NFL, dynamic quarterback in the NFL to basically no
sustained drives.
no sustained drives.
No sustained
You know what I mean?
drives.
Exactly. So the fact that they were able to do that, I mean, that's telling you that defense we're thinking that they're good enough.
Yeah, it's one thing to stop New England when New England's in an obviously down year with all
Right.
kinds of excuses, reasons, injuries, and alibis. That's fine. But to stop Lamar Jackson, and actually, you know what? A lot of this goes on Lamar Jackson himself because he did throw for a lot of yards, but you cannot fumble the ball and give it over to Tennessee and throw 2 interceptions. One in the first half wasn't his fault. He just
Right.
kind of overthrew his tight end, who was injured, couldn't get up for the pass. Bottom line, 3 turnovers. You're out of the playoffs. Tennessee moves on. Let's talk about San Francisco getting the job done at home against Minnesota. I thought Minnesota would be able to keep it close. Wrong. How about no offense?
Yeah.
Kirk Cousins, that offensive line. I mean, I don't even know where to start. Do I give more credit to the defense of the San Francisco 49ers, or do I talk about how Dalvin Cook had 9 rushes for 18 yards in the whole game? How do you do that? 9 rushes for 18 yards in the whole game.
It's called a dominant defense.
Yeah, it's a dominant defense. D Ford back in the lineup for the San Francisco 49ers. How about Kwan Alexander? How about guys that we don't talk about a lot? Sheldon Days, Solomon Thomas, Nick Bosa.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 5 legit players right there that are grown men with bad intentions that shut that. I'm not even talking about Richard Sherman in the secondary. None of that. I'm talking about that front line, the front 7 yesterday of San Francisco, just absolutely enforcing their will on Minnesota. Minnesota had 6 first downs the whole game. 6 first downs the whole game. Yeah. What does that tell you? So the 49ers came out possessed.
That tells you that, first off, the Minnesota Vikings, offensively,
not ready.
You're definitely not ready.
Not ready for prime time.
I can officially now put Kirk Cousins in the same category as Chad Pennington right now. He just ain't getting it done.
$83 million guaranteed, and what'd you get? A road playoff victory, nothing last year, and you got a road playoff victory this year against New Orleans.
Exactly, and this tells me right now that if I'm the Minnesota Vikings, I'm looking to move away from it because this guy is showing you that he's not a quarterback that you can win a Super Bowl with.
Jimmy Garoppolo only goes for 131 yards. How about Tevin Coleman? 22 rushes for 105 yards. Raheem Mostert, 58 more yards, chips in. Also gets the muffed punt.
Right.
Jumps on it. Turnover right there. 49ers get it on the 17-yard line, go in for another score. Yeah. I think it was a complete game by the 49ers. I think that their coach has been there before. They have solid defense. They have just a good mixture of young players and veterans. And Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't have to win the game for you when you have a solid defense. I like Kyle Shanahan. I'm running out of breath because I picked them to win the Super Bowl, and it looks like it's going to happen.
It looks like it's going to happen, but it's a team that we hadn't talked about yet that's looking real good so far.
Who's that?
Kansas City.
I know, Kansas City today. So let's get to it. Kansas City gets it done 51-31 at home. Talk about coming out cold. How shocked were you to see Houston go up 24-0 in the first half at Arrowhead in a playoff game? You know, Kansas City last year, everything fell in line for them to go to the Super Bowl and possibly win it.
Right.
Everything. Home game in the AFC Championship, bitterly cold, a beat-up Patriots team that was too old to be there, and they blew it. And they've had a whole year to brew and think and steam over it and get motivated. And then you get in your first game at home in the playoffs here, in the divisional round, and you are down before halftime 24-0 to Houston.
Yeah, I was looking at this game today, and what I saw was something that kind of has me scared for anybody else. This team got down 20 by 21 points. 24 points.
Right.
They came back. Now, they had the ball less than 12 minutes going into the third quarter, and they scored like 35 unanswered points.
Oh, they outscored them 51-7.
Exactly.
51-7. I mean, I don't know which is worse, the fact that they went down 24-0 or the fact that they came back and were resilient under Andy Reid, who I have said is mildly overrated. A lot of people hype up Andy Reid. He has won a grand total of no Super Bowls. You play to win the game. He has not won the game, but he's a good coach.
Man, the way Kansas City played, this might be the year.
It might be the year, but you know what? Who is counting out Tennessee now? Because this is going to be the matchup at Arrowhead. They're going to have another AFC Championship game at Arrowhead. It's probably going to be very cold, and it's deja vu all over again. Except this year they got to beat the Titans, who nobody gave a shot really against, a legitimate shot against the Patriots, and they won. And no one gave them a chance against Baltimore, and they come up huge. Can they keep the adrenaline down, keep mentally focused? I think that they can. I don't think it's going to get, their heads are going to get too big, because I love Mike Vrabel as head coach there and what he's done this year. I think they have a shot in this game, but Kansas City today showed me something. It's like the old Kansas City offense came back. Mahomes looked good. Too many weapons, and we talked about that. I thought it was going to be too many weapons today for Houston to handle, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be too many weapons for Tennessee. I mean, granted, yes, Tennessee, they played well against Lamar Jackson. Yes, they played well against a beat-up, Patriots team. But what I saw today with Patrick Mahomes, with his legs and his passing ability, and not only that, you still have to stop Travis Kelce, who is a monster.
Right,
Tyreek Hill. I mean,
Sammy Watkins.
Yeah, Sammy Watkins.
Got weapons all over the place.
You got Hardman returning balls. I mean, you're looking at all of these weapons that Kansas City has. I mean, just offensively alone, and the defense have, they held Houston to 7 points for a half. So,
While scoring 51 in less than 3 quarters.
Right.
It's sick. So,
I mean, the fact that they scored 35 points and only had the ball less than 12 minutes going into the third quarter, that let us know that this offense is rolling and they're ready. And I think today, just that beat down early in the half, it was a slap in the face, and I think these guys are ready to play ball now.
I think it's going to be really hard for Tennessee for one reason. You got to go on the road and beat New England. Then you got to go on the road and beat Baltimore. Now you got to go on the road to just a hostile place at Arrowhead next weekend. And it's just too hard to go on the road and beat 3 top-tier teams in the AFC. I mean, arguably, we could say Baltimore, Kansas City, and New England were the 3 best teams in the AFC over the course of the year. And to go on the road and beat them consecutively, it might be asking Mike Vrabel and that Tennessee team to do too much.
Right. I mean,
it just might be. I don't know. Last game tonight, it's going to be 20 degrees with a 40% chance of snow at Lambeau Field. I just want to touch on Seattle and Green Bay real quick because that game's about to kick off. I said it's a game of coaches and quarterbacks.
Yes.
Coaches, I'm taking Pete Carroll over Matt LaFleur. Matt LaFleur could be an awesome coach, but he hasn't been there before. This is the grand opening for him. Pete Carroll's already been there. When we talk about quarterbacks, you've got Russell Wilson and you've got Aaron Rodgers. I think Russell Wilson is at least as good a passer as Aaron Rodgers. And mobility-wise, I'm taking Russell Wilson over Aaron Rodgers. I like the 4 points that Seattle's getting. They have enough veterans that have been there before. I'm not relying on beast mode, Marshawn Lynch, to go out and run for 100 yards. He can get me 50 or 60 yards, not turn it over. DK Metcalf on the outside. Lockett on the other side as far as wide receivers. And if Wilson gets in trouble, he can zigzag his way down the field. He's super smart. I'm taking Seattle plus the 4 points on the road at Green Bay.
And I agree with you. I think this game is actually going to be pretty close. I think when you look at this game and you look at Aaron Rodgers this season, he's had an up and down season this year. Green Bay has a solid defense, so I think the game is going to be. I believe the game is going to come down. To me, it's going to come down to a field goal. But I think you're going to see a different Aaron Rodgers tonight. I think Aaron Rodgers may finally decide to go off script from what Matt LaFleur has done, because right now, if you look at Aaron Rodgers this season, it looks like he's become more of a system quarterback and not the ad-lib Aaron Rodgers that we're used to seeing, extending plays and getting, throwing balls down the field. So I'm looking for Aaron Rodgers to actually go a little off script tonight and ad-lib a little bit more plays tonight.
10 minutes left to go in the first quarter at Lambeau. It's Green Bay up 7-0. Seattle's got the ball almost around midfield. We'll keep you posted on that one. Other NFL news. How about the Browns not going with Josh McDaniels, that was heavily speculated as their new head coach, but they do pick up Minnesota offensive coordinator Kevin Stefanski, who I like. He's a no-nonsense guy. He's a players type of coach. I think that's what he needs to go in there and grab the reins and say, this is my team. I'm going to make it into our team and get the OBJs and the Baker Mayfield. He's got to get those guys on a leash and tone down the drama and get focused on football. You got one of the best defensive players in the league at Myles Garrett, who also, at the time of his ejection earlier this season, led the league in penalties. So that tells me that he's not mentally focused. He's not disciplined. I think Kevin Stefanski comes in and just has a no-nonsense approach and takes them to the next level, whatever that is, whether it's a winning season that they haven't had in 16 years, I believe, or they are on the birth of making the playoffs. I think this is a good hire.
I think it's a good hire because this is the same guy they wanted to hire last year, but they chose to go the other direction. You see what happened. So you have to go with your first instinct, people. Stop deviating from that. And so now they go back and hire a guy, that's focused on analytics, that's going to bring discipline, that's going to bring this offense together. Hopefully, get Baker Mayfield back on the right track. So I think it's a great
commercials.
Hire. Yeah. Well, that too.
I mean, seriously, like every time I turn around, he's in a commercial. It's like you should be focused on your career, and then the commercials will come. When you retire 15 years, in the league, do you want to look back and go, look at all these great commercials I made, or do you want to say, look at all the bling that I created? Right now, he's focused on commercials and building his brand. Well, that's why, when he came out, I said, look, he could be a talented guy, but he got arrested when he was at OU on a DUI case where if you watch the video, I mean, he totally comes off as an immature kid, pulling this where the cops are arresting him like, do you know who I am? Stumbling around on the concrete, doing face plants. He came off as a super talented kid with immaturity issues like Jameis Winston. All the talent in the world, but it's not going on up here. And I think Kevin's going to step in there as the head coach and whoever they bring in at GM and sit him down and go, look, we are about winning. If you want to focus on commercials and having Panthers on top of Rolls Royces, that's fine. It's not going to work here. We could just work a trade before the draft comes. I don't see that happening, but hopefully he can get between his ears right here. And that's what needs to get fixed with some of the players. And they have so much talent there. It's up here. Mm-hmm. It's getting focused and getting disciplined.
Well, if he doesn't, you just have another situation with your former quarterback, Johnny Manziel. So, Cleveland has a history of picking these guys who were great college quarterbacks, for their teams back then. But at the same time, these guys are immature. They don't have it upstairs. So I look for, him to hopefully change Baker Mayfield around. I hope he doesn't have a Johnny Manziel situation where he's in the league for like a couple seasons and he's going. But hopefully this is just a good situation for him, and he can get this team going because it is a lot of talent there. I mean, you have
Jarvis.
You got Jarvis Landry, you got OBJ,
top 3 running backs.
You got David Njoku at tight end. You have Nick Chubb. You have
decent offensive line.
The other running back, Kareem Hunt. I mean, you have talent there. So you have to be able to, just channel this talent and make it work. I mean, this AFC division has the potential to be one of the best divisions in all of the NFL if Cleveland could just get their act together.
I think Pittsburgh's in overhaul mode as far as I'm concerned. They need a quarterback. I mean, Ben's done. He had an awesome career, but his best years are in the rearview mirror. Mason Rudolph doesn't seem to be panning out. James Conner, he's not Le'Veon Bell. And they've got Juju Smith on the at wideout, who's a good deep threat, but that's it. And they're rebuilding the defense. But, when you lose Ryan Shazier, that's a huge loss there at middle linebacker. Yeah. He was the quarterback on defense. He's not coming back. I don't know. Pittsburgh, I look at that division, and I think they've got a ways to go, but I agree with you. There's enough talent there. They should be winning. Yeah. And, Baker Mayfield and Freddie Kitchens are the main reasons why they didn't win this year, because it's just both of them were super immature. Let's go into college football. Big game Monday night. The college football playoff wraps up. Clemson, number 3, taking on number 1 LSU. And the statistics that I delved into today are a lot of the same analytical stuff that I've looked at all year. But this is what I like about Clemson. Both these teams combined are 28-0. Yeah. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't even lost a college football game. Mm-hmm. I think they're both obviously the 2 best teams in college football right now. Here's the deal with Clemson. Offensively, 539 yards per game, ranked 3rd overall. 3rd overall in offense. The number 1, number 2, number 3 best offense, Clemson. Yeah. That's one big reason why they're in this game. Mm-hmm. Here's the other big reason that a lot of people don't know. Number 1 defense in the country. Number 2, Clemson. Number 2 overall defense. They're only giving up 263 yards total per game. A lot of people don't realize that their defense is nationally ranked in the top 3, and so is their offense. Mm-hmm. And they have a quarterback and deep threats at wide out. They have Travis Etienne, who's I think an explosive game changer at running back. And they have one of the best coaches in the country.
Yeah, so I look at those stats as well, and you look at the running back stats with Travis Etienne and what's the running back name? I think is Hilaire from LSU. Their stats almost mirror each other, and that's crazy. However, I think the X factor to this game is going to come down to Thaddeus Moss, the tight end from LSU, being able to get open on that Clemson defense, and then it's going to come down to the field goal kickers. What we don't realize is that LSU field goal kicker has been more consistent than Clemson's field goal kicker. Clemson's field goal kicker went 12 for 20. You have LSU's kicker went 21 for 26. That's going to play a big role in this game.
I don't know if it's going to be that close, but here's what I like. So right now the line is at 7 points. LSU's given 7. Over and under is 68. So if I was going to tease this game, I would tease LSU down to LSU -1. And you know what? At 68 points, if you tease down, you're at 62 points, and that means 31 points each. Man, I just think that's going to be close. If I was going to do a combo teaser on this, I'd take LSU, tease them down, LSU -1, and then over on the 62. More than 62 points. But LSU has the number 1 offense in the country. Their defense is ranked 29th. That's what's concerning to me. That's what a lot of people, I think, don't realize about LSU. And again, I have mentioned this stat 9 million times. LSU does not have a lockdown defense, but some of that is because they're on the field so much because their offense is so great. But you can't give up 38 points. 38 points to Texas on the road at the beginning of the season, I can understand. How do you give up 38 points to Vandy? That's what I don't understand. There was questionable games throughout their schedule that I looked at and I said, You guys, your defense isn't locked down. And when I talk about national championship, you got to be locked down on defense, especially against the third best offense overall. So I think this is going to be a close matchup, a lot closer than a lot of the Bayou Bengal fans think. My prediction on the game, LSU 35, Clemson 28. I think it's going to be close. I think it could come down to the last minute where Clemson could be driving and maybe stall out. But I think it's going to be a super, this blowout stuff, I can't see it happening. It could. Who thought Clemson was going to blow out Alabama last year? Nobody. Not one person saw that coming. So a blowout or something freak could happen, but I don't see it happening. I think Clemson is solid on both sides of the ball. I love Dabo Swinney. As far as head coach, he's not going to get flustered. I love their defensive coordinator. I love the whole program. LSU is there for a reason. Ed Orgeron has turned them around. They've got their offense cranking. I remember being in Vegas a couple years ago, and I was playing roulette, and half the table were LSU fans. And this is about 4 or 5 years ago. They were begging LSU to fire Les Miles because of the offense. So they've got it turned around now. Do they have enough defense to hold a cap on Clemson? I don't know. I could see Clemson scoring 28, 35 points.
Okay, I'm going to give you. I think Clemson is going to win the game, and this is why. Clemson has a secret weapon that they pull out every now and again. This is they call the guy. I think they call it Jimmy Bean Snap or Jimmy Bean Snoop or Jimmy Beans or whatever, something like that. Well, Jimmy Beans is actually Brent Venables. Going in the backfield, taking over the offense, playing quarterback. And he plays quarterback for the scout team for his starting defense. And what he does, and this is interesting because I've never heard of a defensive coordinator actually playing quarterback for the scout team against his starting defense. And what this does is it allows him to look at his defense alignment, make sure everybody's aligned as he's running plays. He's able to switch up the tempo, whether to slow down the tempo or increase the tempo. And I think that in itself is going to be something that's major, that's going to be key to this game, because not only is he's looking at it from a defensive coordinator's position, but he's looking at it from the position of Joe Burrow actually running against his defense. Mm-hmm. And so I think that is going to be something that's key to Clemson actually pulling an upset tomorrow night.
You got a score?
Score for that game, I say it's going to be Clemson 35, LSU 28.
So we just
flip, yeah.
Wow. And I could see that happening too. I mean, if somebody said there's no way that Clemson's going to win, I'm going to tell them the electroshock therapy didn't work.
Yeah, and then we have to also think about the other X factor too, Trevor Lawrence. Believe it or not, Trevor Lawrence is a pretty decent scrambler running the ball.
And we saw that against Ohio State.
Exactly, and he averaged, almost 6 yards a carry running the ball. So, he is also, something that can be the extra person on Clemson's offense if you play in man. So you have to be wary of that.
I'm so psyched for this game. I thought that the best game of the year was going to be Clemson and Ohio State. And up until that point, it was. And that game ended up actually being incredibly great. But this one I think is going to surpass it. Yeah. I think it's going to give us everything that we want in a national championship game, and I can't wait. NBA news, we talked about James Harden being the 45th player to reach 20,000 points. Houston right now is 26-12, 5th in the West. There's no way they're catching the Clippers and the Lakers. And my concern with the Lakers, again, is health for LeBron James and health for AD. Right.
And, LeBron is getting, a little older, a little long in the tooth. And, LA is now looking to have to do load management because, LeBron is getting up there in age, and you want to kind of preserve him to get ready for that playoff run. And, AD hasn't played a full season since he's been in the league.
Right.
So, of course, that's going to be an
last
issue.
week, it was like, well, no big deal. He's going to go with the team and play. Did you see that fall? I mean, it was about 4 feet in the air, and he landed right on his hip. Something's got to be jacked up in there. And even if it's not keeping him from playing, when he does play, is he 100%? That's my whole concern with the Lakers this year.
I mean, it may be a bruise or something like that, but I'm pretty sure they have, the trainers or whatnot on staff to, provide him with the proper treatment that he needs, going on with that game. But again, I believe it's going to end up going down to Anthony Davis also being on load management as well.
I hate that load management stuff. I completely understand why they do it. That doesn't mean I completely agree with them doing it. I don't like it because, think of all the kids and the people that are just getting to know the NBA right now for the first time. And maybe you're in San Antonio and you go out there and want to see AD or LeBron James, and that might be the only time in your whole life that you ever get to see him. And they're taking a load management day, so you just paid $100 for what? To see Rajon Rondo? I don't need that in my life.
Hey, you want to see them play, but you're going to see your team if that's your team to play.
Yeah, but when I was growing up, the Clippers were still in San Diego in 1983 or 84, 83 I think it was. And, they had Bill Walton playing for them and Michael Cage at SDSU. And the Celtics came to town, and I actually got to go see Larry Bird play, which was great because I was a Celtic fan growing up.
Right.
But if he hadn't played, or Kevin McHale hadn't played, or Robert Parrish hadn't played, or all three of them were taking a night off because it was the Clippers, and they were so far down in the basement they needed searchlights to figure out where they're at, so it's not a tough game. And then I don't get to see those players. I mean, I just feel bad for the ticket holders because you're still paying full price, but you're not getting full value entertainment. You get to see Rajon Rondo and, Pope Caldwell and some of these other backups. I mean, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't want to see rundown Dwight Howard for $100 plus parking. I don't need that.
Right, and again, that's another reason why the NBA's ratings are starting to fall behind, a lot of other sports too. I mean, their ratings has actually dropped, at least for the Christmas game, it dropped 18%. And
it's not exciting brand of basketball.
Right, because you're having players taking load management breaks or whatnot.
Yeah.
And, so people are starting not to tune in because they don't know when their favorite players are going to play.
Yeah.
So what's the use of doing that? Just watch sports and then catch the highlights.
Yeah, I'll sit on my own couch, watch a 75-inch 4K TV and crack a brew. I don't need all that nonsense. If I'm going to go there, I want to see, I'm giving you quality money, I want quality results. I want a quality product up there. We try to give you a quality product. Thank you so much to all of our new subscribers. We gave some awesome shout outs at the beginning of the show. You can be a part of this show. You could follow us on Twitter at TheFirstRound1 or comments and questions at TheFirstRoundRD@gmail.com. TheFirstRoundRD@gmail.com. Check out our website, rondalbeck.com. In our St. Jude studio, St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. You can go to the top left-hand corner up there, learn about all the great things that St. Jude does, or make a donation to them. Having said that, let's get on to MMA. The big fight in UFC 246, I think this week, obviously, is the return of Conor McGregor, formerly one of my favorite athletes, but he's got such a potty mouth, I can't support him anymore, against a really solid figure over the past 10 years in UFC fighting, Donald Cowboy Cerrone. I think this is a great matchup because, frankly, we're asking ourselves, is there enough gas in the tank with Donald Cerrone? And are we going to see a motivated Conor McGregor, or is this just to prop up his whiskey brand, his personal brand? He's just getting a paycheck? Or does he still have that burning fire that he had when he first got in the UFC where he wanted to wipe out the whole division? I'm interested to see which of these guys, who actually shows up.
I'm looking at your first scenario. I believe this is the commercialized Conor McGregor. I don't think this is the Conor McGregor that
he's not motivated to fight.
I don't think this is the Conor McGregor that we've seen before. In previous years, I think this is the Conor McGregor that's here. I'm here. I'm going to take this fight because I've had so much negative publicity going on with me the last few years that I need something to take away from that.
This is how I see this fight breaking down. There's one way for each guy to win. Donald Cerrone, the longer he stretches this fight out and presses Conor on his cardio, the higher his chance of winning. McGregor needs to strike quick, strike fast, use that left hand, attack Donald early, because the later the rounds go, Conor has proven over and over and over again, he's not like DC in the heavyweight division.
Right.
he gets stronger as he fights. John Jones gets stronger as he fights.
Right.
Conor fades.
Yeah.
3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, and then gone.
Right.
He doesn't get stronger. So, for Conor to win, I think we need to see that left hand. I think we need to see him fighting smart and tactically, not being a showboat, and get Donald out of there early. The longer that Donald keeps this fight going, maybe keeps his distance from him, isn't afraid to grapple and try and take down Conor, which I don't think is going to be Donald's strong suit. He's more of a stand-up fighter. But milk that clock, wear Conor down. That's the key to Donald Cerrone winning this fight.
Yeah, and I also think that, Conor has to take him out early. I mean, you're just looking at Conor McGregor's fights. I mean, go back to the Nate Diaz fight. The longer that fight drug on, the more it favored Nate Diaz.
Right.
And so, Conor has to, I mean, he hasn't fought, in, I don't know when, since what, Khabib?
Khabib was the last fight.
Yeah, right. So, since that, I mean, and that was basically he just choked him out. So Conor has to get in there, get out, get a quick, clean knockout, and, move on with his day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the undercard there, Holly Holm, a female fighter that I respect a ton because she basically, I think she's a super solid fighter going up against Raquel Pennington, who not a lot of people know about. She's lost to Amanda Nunes, didn't look really good in that fight. I actually am excited to see this fight because I like Holly Holmes. And do you remember she clocked Ronda Rousey back to like 1974 with a left foot kick down in Australia that sent Ronda Rousey tumbling out of the UFC.
Yeah.
Because she was, on a trajectory like a skyrocket. Raquel Pennington, I think in this fight, needs to come out and be super aggressive against Holly Holmes. Holly Holmes has been here before. She's a tactically superior fighter. She's got all kinds of experience. I think that the only chance that Raquel Pennington has in this fight is she's got to come out, be aggressive, get up in Holly Holmes' face, not just charge. For Holly Holm, I think that she just has to fight a smart fight, let the fight come to her. Raquel will make mistakes. Holly Holm has been around long enough to take advantage of those mistakes and plot for when she wants to have that knockout kick, that knockout punch, and maybe a submission. But just take her time and be the smart fighter that I know that she is, that she showed the world that she is. I got Holly Holm winning this one in under 3 rounds.
Yes, and one thing that was underrated about Holly Holmes is she is a really good striker. Holly Holm used to be a professional boxer, so those hands are there, people. So if you make a mistake, she will take advantage of you and catch you with one of those patented punches, one of those strikes to the face. And so I look for Holly Holm to win this fight as well.
Yeah, I do too. Moving on to men's college hoops, we talked last week on our show about the ill-traveled path this year of the UNC Tar Heels, right. North Carolina Tar Heels. And their coach, Roy Williams, had a meltdown. He said, "This is the least talented team I've ever coached." We both agreed that is a comment that you absolutely never say. Shouldn't have came out of his mouth in any way, shape, or form. Yesterday, Clemson comes into UNC with a record of 0-59 historically at North Carolina, gets the win in overtime, 79-76 over the Tar Heels. And how do you think Roy Williams approached it after the game? With class, dignity, respect, credit to Clemson?
Oh, no. Roy has that grumpy old man syndrome. Get off my lawn syndrome this year, man.
It is this year because I had him up here. He was like a great coach, a classy guy, somebody that I would want if I'm an AD at North Carolina, representing my college basketball team, going into the homes of recruits.
Right.
He has been an ambassador for Kansas. Everywhere he's been up here.
Right.
This year, it's kind of bipolar. Like, they're not having a good season, and they let Clemson come in and get a win for the first time in 60 attempts. Yeah. And it shows really where North Carolina is at. But after the game, he says, this is my lowest point. And I feel so bad for the kids on my team. That I can handle. But then he talks about the athletic director, Bubba Cunningham, and basically defies him to fire him. When asked about the performance, Roy Williams said, Bubba Cunningham should fire me. So he's coaching the least talented team that he's ever coached. Shouldn't ever be said. And less than a week later, he comes out and he says to his AD in an interview where everybody's going to hear it, post it, blog about it, report on it, I should be fired. What's going on with this guy that was so solid for so long, that's been such an institution of men's basketball, that has had such a good character, such a good winning record, such an ambassador for the schools that he's coached at? Now, it's like he's off the reservation mentally.
Well, I think that comment was not necessarily meant to take a shot at the AD. I think it was just a shot at everybody, the critics, everybody talking about his comments, from last week, which was,
right. I think this is a complete frustration comment.
Right.
He's not taking a shot at Bubba Cunningham.
Right. I think it was a complete frustration shot, but I also, think that, it was one of those, situations where he, I can't think of the word, but anyway, it's one of those things where it was just out of frustration. He's just
letting the moment get the best of him.
Right. It's just something it's nothing that people should worry about or should take to heart. I mean, I don't.
These are two comments he's never made in his whole career, and they both come out this week. I'm concerned. I have all the esteem and admiration for Roy Williams for what he's done for college basketball, for the ambassador he has been, for the high character quality guy, for his overall performance on the court. He's just a winner. So when you have behavior that is outside the norm, you have to look a little closer and say, well, what's causing this? And maybe it's just the frustration of not winning, because that's a high pressure situation there in North Carolina. And when you don't play for national championships, people are going to want to know why. And they're going to want to know why yesterday. And they're on the brink of almost having a losing record. So the pressure there has got to be intense. I think they overcome that. I think they get into the tournament. How far they're going to go, I don't know. But I have all the faith that Roy Williams can turn this around. This is just a blip on the radar. Chris, what else is going on in the world of sports?
Well, your favorite homegirl soccer player is at it again. We have basically the Olympics have basically said there's no protests for nothing to be having to go on, during the Olympics, and especially during the opening night. There is no protests of any sort, no raising of fists, no signs, no taking a knee, nothing. And, you have Ricky Rapinoe, who's out there is like, I will not be silenced. I'm going to do something. Megan, if you want to do something, use your platform now. Don't do it on the world stage to try to defy the Olympic Committee. I mean, you have the advantage to go to talk shows, whatnot. Use Ellen, use some of these other platforms. Go to The View
in a positive way,
and just put your stuff out there that way.
In a positive way.
That
music can mean only one thing. First off, again, I want to thank all of our new subscribers and the people who have joined the First Round family. We say thank you for your support. Tell your friends about the First Round. Help us grow to epic proportions. The music tells me we need to thank our support staff. The man on the board, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. My co-host, Chris Roberts. El Presidente Chet 40 for all of us here in the First Round. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating with us. Remember, you can reach us on Twitter at TheFirstRound1 or write in with questions or comments to TheFirstRoundRD@gmail.com. We will be right back here Wednesday night live on YouTube in the St. Jude Studios. Until then, take care, everybody.